Weddings are sometimes casual, but always magical. Whoa. Would you look at that? Yes, they are sometimes formal. Go and dust your shoulders off. And they're always a great time to celebrate with your loved ones, your friends and your family. And so in this video, we are going to learn how to plan a wedding step by step. I'm Sean, the founder of Event Builder, and I'm also a DJ and MC, and I've been in the events industry for over 14 years. So let's get straight to it. Now, here in the United States, weddings are typically in a single day celebration, but there's sometimes a couple of events leading up to it. So you might have like a rehearsal dinner or different parties to go to. We are going to focus on these three parts of the wedding. We're going to focus on the actual wedding day, which is the ceremony, the cocktail hour, and the reception. Now, before we even go into the details and planning, what does that look like? We need to answer one important question that most couples usually miss. And that question is, what do you want your wedding to feel like? What do you want the vibe to be like? What do you want the experience to be like? And what do you want the visuals to be like? So here you can see on the left side of my screen, we have the vibe. So do you want it to be romantic or elegant? Do you want it to be whimsical or modern, classic or minimalist? And then the middle part, what do you want the experience to be like? Do you want it to be like family focused and joyful, or emotional and traditional? And then finally, what are the visuals? What do you want people to see? And I would even argue that you need to think about the music that ties in with the visuals, but specifically for this planning season, we are thinking about the visuals. So is it gonna be floral or bold or neutral? Because then as you get into the planning side, then we're going to think about, for the timelines, the audio side, which is really where a lot of my background comes in from approaching things as a DJ perspective. Now, the other reason why we need to have this question answered of what do you want your wedding to feel like is because of this quote by Zig Ziglar: if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. So this gives us a center of the bullseye, a goal to hit, so that when we plan our ceremony, our cocktail hour, and our reception, we know what we are aiming for, and we have a consistent theme throughout the whole wedding. And now we get to the planning phase, and be sure to stick around for the end of this video because we have three different phases to get to. The first phase is the actual wedding ceremony. Now, if you're new to wedding planning, the ceremony is the actual series of moments that lead up to the bride and the groom uniting as one and becoming a married couple. So the wedding ceremony, here's what you will need. What you will need is an officiant, you need the venue, you need the chairs, you need the rings, and you probably need some paperwork to go with it. Now, the venue, what that means is that is the location. That is, are you going to be in a barn? Are you going to be on a lakeside? Are you going to be on a riverside? Are you going to be in someone's backyard? There are tons of different venue options that are out there, and it partly depends upon your budget. So one of the questions that you should probably answer before you start to dig into the ceremony, cocktail hour, and reception is, what is our overall budget? And then start to break things down into line items based upon what you need. And you'll see in a moment, there's a whole nother category beyond what you actually need. So for your venue location, you could do it in someone's backyard. That would probably be a little bit less expensive, especially if you're on a tight budget. That's a great option. Or you could go to the beach. Or you could rent a barn or rent a wedding venue or go to the church or a temple or some other religious location. Now, the second thing that you saw on that screen of what you need is your officiant. Officiant is the person that is actually performing the marriage ceremony, that is guiding everyone through the process, and they are the person that gets to pronounce them husband and wife. If you are planning a wedding in the United States, be sure to check your local state laws and get someone that is officially licensed to perform weddings. Now, during this ceremony, one of the things that the officiant is going to do is going to ask the couple to either repeat their vows or to read their vows. So it looks like in this picture, this couple has maybe written their own vows and they are reading it for everyone to hear. One of the other things that I mentioned that you're going to need at your venue while your officiant is performing the wedding, while the couple is getting married, is you actually need chairs. Now, the reason why I say you need chairs, and you might not just want chairs, is because, especially if you have elderly people that are going to be there. So maybe some of the younger people, if you have a crowd of all younger people, maybe you don't actually need chairs. But if you're going to have grandma that's up there for your wedding, then you probably want to have some chairs for them to sit down in. And then last but not least, here in the United States, you also need to have your marriage license. Now, this wouldn't necessarily take place during the actual ceremony. You're not going to be signing a document probably in front of friends and family. but the paperwork does need to be filled out for you to officially get married. So if you're going to plan a wedding, that's kind of an important part. So these are all things that fall under the need category for your ceremony. You're probably going like, Sean, there's actually some things that we need additional to this. The answer is maybe. These are things that you actually might want for your wedding ceremony. You might want to have florals. You might want to have a beautiful dress. You might want to have your friends stand next to you as your bridal party, or you might want to have music while you're walking down the aisle. You might want to have decorations. But if you think about what you need versus what you want, some of these are icing on the cake. And this is not even a complete list of all of the things that I could think of for what you might want in addition to the things that you need for your ceremony. So here's a much more detailed list. So you might want decorations or an arch or an altar to stand out. You might want to have florals, live music where people are playing like a string quartet or a harpist that's there. You might want to have printed programs and a ring bearer and a flower girl or custom signage. You might want to pause in the middle of your ceremony and have something symbolic like where you two light candles together or you pour sand together. There's all different kinds of things that you might want to have for your ceremony. Now, there is something on this list that could turn into a need. It is the very last bullet point that's here. That is the sound equipment and the microphone for your ceremony. The reason why this might turn into a need is if you have a crowd of, I would estimate, over 50 people, and you want them to hear your vows, and you want them to hear the officiant clearly, then you should probably bring in a sound system with a microphone. Now that we know what we need for our ceremony and a couple of things that we might want for our ceremony, it's time to take all of these elements and turn it into a timeline. What is the actual flow of the ceremony? And here is a pretty traditional and a fairly simple timeline for the actual ceremony, which is again, the time of period where the couple is actually getting married. Whenever I work with couples, and I have a couple of weddings coming up this year, I usually estimate for about 30 minutes of guest arrival. So that means that we want to have all decorations, music playing, everything set in place, so that when the guests arrive early, we have about 30 minutes of time where there's no setting up, there's no tweaking and changing and adjusting and setting out chairs. Everything is beautiful and ready for our guests at least 30 minutes before the actual ceremony is supposed to start. And then the first segment of the ceremony we call the processional. The processional is that time of the ceremony when the family, when the bridal party and the bride and the groom are going to enter into the ceremony and the guests get to watch them. In most weddings that I've worked at and been a part of, here is a very simple timeline for that processional. The groom and the officiant would enter first, then comes the family, then the bridal party will enter, and then finally the music changes, everybody rises to their feet, and the bride will enter with her father. Now, of course, all of these depend upon the actual wedding and the bride and the groom and how they want to take place. A wedding that I have coming up, they are not doing a bridal party. And so we are just scratching this one off of our timeline because it doesn't need to be in there. And as a DJ, here's something that most couples might not think about when you're putting together your timeline is you need to ask yourself, do you want one song playing for when the groom and the officiant enters, and then a different song for when the family enters, and then another different song for the bridal party, and finally a fourth song for when the bride enters with her father? Or do you just want to have one song playing for all of this, and then a second song playing for when the bride enters? So that's this final bullet point that you see right here. Is there a song for each or a song for groups of them, and then finally a song for the bride? And next comes the actual ceremony itself. Here at the ceremony, generally, I've seen it range between 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes a little bit shorter than that. And this is where the officiant will give a welcome. They will read out scripture or give a message, and then they will ask the couple to say their vows, exchange their rings, and then they pronounce them husband and wife. Now, if you're working with a couple or you are the couple getting married, you might want to include something different like a lighting the candle moment, or a sand art moment, or you might want to have a friend or a family member sing out a song or come up and read a prayer. These are all very common things, but they do not take place at every wedding, but there's something to be aware of. And then finally, once the happy couple is now pronounced husband and wife, This is where the officiant gives that announcement and we enter into the recessional phase. This is where the bride and the groom kiss, they exit while everybody is clapping and cheering. The bridal party then exits, then the family exits, and finally the officiant gives an announcement about what's about to happen next, which is usually going into a cocktail hour followed by a reception. If you're going to host a cocktail hour at a wedding, then there's going to be some things that you need and some things that you want. Some things that you need are going to look like the drinks, table and chairs, the hors d'oeuvres for people to snack on, and you need finally a location, whether that is the same spot as where the ceremony was, maybe it's at the same physical address, but you're moving to a different room or a different part of the property, but you need a venue and a location for this as well. And then some additional things that you might want for your cocktail hour is you might want to have music playing. You might want to have a photo booth or a guest book with decorations. And one fun tradition that I've started to see pop up at more and more weddings are some games for people to play, whether that's cornhole and other tailgate style games, or if it's something a little bit more custom for your wedding, that would be up to you. 2 quick tips for you planning a wedding is if you do not want to have alcohol at your wedding, no problem. You could simply rename it social hour and then have maybe some mocktails and some alcohol-free beverages. And the second quick tip for you is that even if you are going to have cocktails and alcoholic beverages at your wedding, then I highly recommend having some non-alcoholic beverages for people to enjoy because they don't want to be left out and they would like to have something nice, something unique, something different to help you celebrate. And while all of this is taking place at the cocktail hour, a lot of times the happy couple steps aside to take pictures of just the two of them, as well as with their friends and their family. And during the cocktail hour is a time when people are smashing down some food and smashing down some drinks, and this is a great time for you to hit subscribe and smash that like button. Then if you can, make sure that those pictures take place. The happy couple gets to come in, grab a cocktail themselves or a drink themselves, and gets to walk around and enjoy that hour, that time with their friends and their family before the reception begins. And then you want to pull them aside, have them step aside because it's time to enter into the reception phase. The reception is going to be the after party where people are dancing and celebrating with the couple, which of course will require some things that we need. So what do we actually need to host a reception? You need, again, tables and chairs. You need a venue or a location, whether again, that's on the same property or at another spot. And then you need your friends and your family, and you need some food and some beverages. Now for your reception, there's also some additional things that you probably want to have. Again, you want to have a photo booth. You can include the games there as well. Highly recommend a DJ and or a band. Some people bring in both for your reception so that you can have a good time. And now if we take all of those items and again put it into a timeline, what does that actually look like? Whenever I work with couples, this is usually what I recommend with some tweaks and some adjustments and some customizations based upon your needs. So you want to have a grand entrance for the bride and the groom to enter into their own reception. And if they're going to have a bridal party, then it's usually fun to have the bridal party and take part in that grand entrance as well. Here is a time to also think about the music. So you're going to be thinking about what song is going to be playing while the bridal party is entering and as the bride and the groom are entering. And something that I've seen at different weddings is either choosing one song for every single pair. So that would be a bridesmaid and a groomsman entering together. Do they get a unique song, or are you going to play one song for the whole bridal party and then change songs for the bride and the groom to come in, which is a fun way to celebrate? Either one works and both are great. I will say if you're trying to have a less stressful wedding, then I recommend going with one song for all of the bridal party and then a song for the bride and the groom. After that grand entrance, then you're going to have the first dance. You can have everybody gather around the dance floor and partake in it or keep them seated. Either way is up to you. And then after the first dance between the bride and the groom or the happy couple, you're going to go into the mother and the groom dance. The father and the bride dance would be next. Have a song selected for each one of those. The first dance, the second dance, the third dance, and then you would have everyone take a seat and then have either the bride and the groom give a welcome or someone from the family give a welcome, say a prayer over the meal, and then dismiss everyone. If it's a buffet style, you can dismiss a couple of tables, or you can say dinner will now be plated and allow them to enjoy their dinner. If you are going to bring in a live band or a DJ, now is a great time to write down what are some artists or what are some songs that you want to hear playing during your dinner. And then after dinner is a great opportunity to ask everyone to refill their glasses so that you can have toasts from family members, from the bridal party, from the bride and the groom themselves. And then after the toasts, it's usually fun to go into the cake cutting so that we get a lot of these things done before the dance floor opens up. And then you would go into what's called a picture dash. Now, a picture dash is something new that has popped up in the last couple of years, where if you're unfamiliar with it, the bride and the groom can stay where they are, and you have one table at a time come up and take a picture with the bride and the groom, and you play a fun song while this is happening. This ensures that the bride and the groom get at least one picture with everybody's there at the reception. From the picture dash, then you can go into the garter toss, the bouquet toss, which personally I'm seeing a lot and less frequently. And then from there, you can go into the dancing. And then finally, you would have the final dance, which would be the bride and the groom and everybody that's left at the end of the night there together. So what is the final dance for everybody? Then you can dismiss everyone either for that exit with sparklers or bubbles and things like that. And I love including a private dance where if you get everybody ready for the sparklers, you play a song and you have the newlyweds share a private dance where it's just the two of them on the dance floor. And then you have them exit to the getaway car or whatever else they are doing. Now, as you can tell, weddings include a ton of details that you need to keep track of, which is exactly why I created Event Builder. With Event Builder, you can put your timeline, your notes, your things to buy, your things to do, all in one easy to use platform, and you can use it for up to 3 events completely free. So if you're ready to start planning a wedding, then be sure to go to eventbuilderpro.com and create a free account today. There's a link in the description below. And if you want a tour of what Event Builder can do, then be sure to check out this video.